What is up, everybody? Sysadmin Sean here, and today we're on day 3 of the Linux Upskill Challenge. I hope you guys have been enjoying the video so far, and we're just going to keep going through them. Again, for anyone that's just tuning in or just catching this randomly, this is a full website with tons of great information about learning how to be a beginner Linux user from the command line, going over everything you might need to know or not know about Linux. All that to say, I'm putting a little twist on it in that I'm showing how to do things the way the guide shows you and what is a little bit different on rel based distributions as opposed to like Ubuntu and Debian based stuff. Day 3 is called Power Trip. So this is about having administrative rights, how to use the sudo command, how to give a user the sudo command, things of that nature. So, what who are you and what can you do? So we'll go over the 3 different types of kind of users in a Linux system. So there's the root user, which has the most power on the whole system. It can do whatever it wants to. It does not have to ask permission. Then there are sudoers, who are regular users who can, when they need to elevate their rights, can execute commands with the sudo command. And if they're verified allowed to do that, then they can go ahead and do those changes. Sudo rights can be modified. They can give you access to all the admin controls or a subset of controls. Same for regular users, which is the third type. Regular users, by default, can do quite a bit on the system, but a lot of the major system changes aren't allowed, but they can do a lot of stuff if it relates directly to their own personal profile, things like that. So obviously the big thing they're going to tell you right out of the gate is don't use root. So if you're ever in a Linux system and your first instinct is to do this and be root, you really shouldn't do that because everything root does belongs to root. So it causes user file permissions. There's not good logging when you do things as root because then everyone looks like they are the root user, and that's a problem. You should really be able to sudo vi. Actually, I think you can just do vi sudo, and that kicks you. Oh, see, I don't have access to that. But if we did sudo vi etc sudoers, is that the one that's on here? Hey, it is. So now I can edit that file because I passed sudo to it. We're gonna get out of there because I don't like vi. So anyway, you should, if you created the VM locally or used one of the VPS providers, your root user is readily available. The root user is readily available on my machines, but we're not going to do that. I have given this account access to the sudo group, as you can see. And to do that, you can do something simple as usermod-a-g sudo and then the username. Oh no, but we should do that as root, but we can do this, which will make no sense. Another way to do that is to as root. So I can show you this real quick. So we're in root. I live by nano, sorry. And you're really not supposed to edit this. Yeah, it's supposed to be read only. As you can see, they have root in here and they get access to all. And then there's an admin group and they get access to all. And then there's a sudo group and they get access to all. So if we go into nanny, it's a group. Come on. We can see that there's a sudo group. There's an ADM group. And yeah, that's it. Now, in Red Hat based or Fedora based, if we do there's going to be a group called wheel. Wheel is essentially the ADM group or the sudo group in the other thing. So you want to make sure that you're in the correct group. And if we cat etc sudoers, because we can read it. Oh, what? Sudo cat etc sudoers. Pass our password because we're not logged in as root. As you can see, there's a wheel group. There's a sys group that can be uncommented. There is a wheel group where they aren't required to send a password. Don't use this. Make them send a password. And then, you can add stuff that users are allowed to do if you want them to be able to mount and if you want them to be able to shut down. All that kind of stuff is in this file. Pretty cool. So maybe you've got your user account and you need to change the password. If you're not using SSH certs, which you should be using, or SSH keys, you should be using those. But you just do password. So let's go back to ours. So the current password, the new password, it's going to say, hey, that looks like the same password. Yeah. So it's not going to like that. Now, if I was cancel, goodness. Is it not going to let me just cancel this? Sorry, passwords didn't match. Just end. Thank you. If we wanted to change the password without being that user, we could simply type password user account. And then this overwrites it, and I can set it to pretty much whatever I want to. So, and then we go into a note on hardening. Your server's protected by the fact that its security updates are up to date and that you've set a long string unique passwords, or you're using public keys, which I really recommend you do. And of course, you don't allow people to SSH in as root. Let's see if they even talk about this in here. So power sudo, you can use links and resources. Cat etsy shadow, which is an encrypted file. We can sudo cat etsy shadow. Look at that. There's my password. There's my password. Oh no, right? Really shouldn't be able to do that if you're a regular user. So if we just did etsy shadow without sudo, it should fail. Bingo bango. We're doing great. Test running the reboot command, then via sudo. Once you've reconnected back, use the upcome command to confirm that you did actually restart. Oh yeah, you can use last to see login history. So there's a bunch of times that I've logged in as a few different users, so on and so forth. That's a really good command. So that you can see who's been on the system, when they connected, how long they were usually logged in. It's also good for that. Oh, we can do this. This is a cool one. Sudo journal. Well, if I typed anything right, ctl-e user bin sudo, and there we go. There is the times that people have sent the sudo command. Well, depending on whoever it is, and see, there's where we were in the journal CTL. There's where we switched to root. There's where we catted etsy shadow. There's where we used vi on etsy sudoers and all sorts of interesting stuff like that. So we can see all that in there, and that works the same over on the rel side too. Journal CTL is universal. It's a good one. So there are administrative tasks for the day. We will go into details, many things we can do in your server, but here are some examples of simple administrative tasks that require sudo. If you wish to, you can now rename your server. Traditionally, this would be done by editing two files, etsy hostname and etsy hosts, then rebooting. But the more modern and recommended way is to use hostname CTL command like this, which we can do. Sudo hostname CTL set hostname. We're going to call this Ubuntu server. Now, if we no reboot is required, but if you want to see the new name, just open a new session with bash or log off and log in. That's what I usually do. Exit, log back in. And there we go. It's called Ubuntu server now, as you can see. Very cool. For a cloud server, you might find that the hostname changes after reboot. To prevent this, edit etsy cloud config. It's not a cloud server, so I'm not going to show that. You might also consider changing the time zone that your server uses. By default, this is likely to be UTC, which is pretty appropriate for a worldwide fleet of servers. So you can also set it into this time zone set it to the zone the server is in, or where you and your headquarters are. For a company, that is a decision not to be taken lightly, but for now you can simply change it as you please, which is true. Because the way we are right now, we don't have to worry about it. So there's what it's set to. It's already pointing to an NTP server. I don't want to change it. It's fine. It's fine the way it is, but you can do list time zones, and that's going to give you information on all the time zone choices you could ever want to pick. So that's kind of fun. There's American New York for Eastern, so on and so forth. And then you just basically copy one of these. You do set sudo time date control, set time zone, and then you set it, and then it changes. It's very cool. And that's kind of it. The whole point of the day's lessons is to just do sudo, using the administrative privileges and things of that nature. So yeah, practice around with that, see what you can do. Make sure that you've stopped using root to do all of your work. And that's about it. And we'll see you in the next one.